I want to start off this call with an apology and a thank you for your patience.
All
I
right.
think you've been on the entire time, and you're the only
Yeah.
atheist. So thank you
Yeah.
very, very much for that.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to be on. I wanted to say a couple quick things. First of all, you were entirely correct about Shannon Q's laugh. It's completely infectious, and when I need a good laugh, I listen to her just laughing on repeat. Secondly, congratulations to Kenneth,
Oh, thanks.
partner. I'm a little pissed because you're off the table now.
Well,
Whatever.
I like that. That's funny.
I'll let it slide. And I did sign up for Patreon, so
Oh, thank you.
so shout out to that.
thanks.
My question was, I think that any atheist who wants to be prepared to have discussions with a theist should be prepared with the best possible argument.
Mhm.
And I think that our logic about, like, the discussion you just had about morality or the existence of a God, I think that secular logic should stand on its own merits, and should be able to defeat even the best arguments against for theism. So my question is, what logical arguments have you heard that you think are the best arguments for theism, and if you can steelman them, if that makes sense?
Me and Kenneth talked about this a little bit before the show. I don't know that you're on the same boat as me. I don't think that there are any good theistic arguments, to be honest. I know people will be like, "Oh, it's not," I just don't. I've never been convinced by one. I've never looked at one that's really made me go, yeah, that gets me to the conclusion a God exists. I used to say that the fine tuning argument, was a better chance, but only in the sense of that it's actually trying to apply some a posteriori considerations or some empirical considerations, which I appreciate. But to me, like, the more I think about it, the arguments that I've thought were really good, like fine tuning, it poses more questions that make me think it's almost a worse argument. Like fine tuning, for example, why would you need the fine tuning of constants in the first place? If you're like, why does God care what physical constants or atoms or molecules are doing? Right? It seems to just, God's limited. He can only do things in a certain way, as opposed to making the mass of a neutrino like a basketball, right? So it seems to me it raises more problems than it solves. That all long-winded to say, I'd rest on my own kind of just laying in bed thinking type of thoughts, is like, philosophy of mind and consciousness, I think, are the best routes that I would want to take if I was a theist. But I don't know any specific arguments that are like that stand out. So yeah, I'm just fascinated with consciousness, and the phenomena itself is something worth pondering. But it doesn't get me to like, oh, therefore God. It's just, it gets me to like, I don't understand something. And so to conclude that I do would just be an argument from ignorance. But Kenneth, what about you?
You took the words right out of my mouth. It's interesting because the more that I do this, the more people that I talk to, the more I'm exposed to arguments from theists. I don't have to defeat them because they just can't stand on their own 2 feet. And like, I hate to say this, I'm gonna take heat for this, but I think that if we're talking about like a practical sense, what I see out in IRL is that personal experience, appeals to emotion, and God of the gaps are the most effective arguments for theism based on what I see people actually accepting, in their day-to-day lives. If I was to, like go to a mega church and poll everybody, those are the things that I would see the most of. So if I lost all my principles and decided to become a televangelist, that would be it. I wouldn't even touch, I wouldn't be using the kalam. I wouldn't be out there making contingency arguments or fine tuning arguments. It would just all be personal experience and appeals to emotion. And, atheists and scientists can't explain X, Y, and Z, therefore God, because what I see is that that's good enough for most people. And it's fucking sad. But yeah, that was a bit of a rant, but that's
that's the marketing. I'm sorry, real fast. I wanted to add something because I don't know if it was one of our producers in the back, John, had mentioned he had mentioned something like looking at the formal structure whether it's valid versus, you know, the soundness of the premises. And so when I look at the arguments, none of them, I could grant that the structure is valid, right? I could be like, okay, the Kalam has some valid structure or whatever it might be, but I'm not ever like convinced that the soundness of the premises are. And it wouldn't matter if it's for God or some argument for something else, idealism or something else. Like if I stop at some premise and it's not substantiated, then I can't say it's a good argument. So I just wanted to add that. But
that's why I sort of took a different approach, because like there, in my experience, like I've said this before, and people have gotten mad at me for saying it, but I would agree with Mike that I don't know of any good arguments for God in the sense that they're valid and sound, and you can follow the conclusion to, or the premises to the conclusion that a God exists. Like really, sincerely, every single one falls apart when you really think about it.
Sure. Yeah. Does that? I don't know if that helps. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, or if we lost them. Oh, I think we did. Anyway, so yeah, call back. I'm sorry if that did happen. We'll get you back on. And I'll prioritize your call at the beginning. And thank you for becoming a patron and supporting the show, and congratulating Kenneth and all that. It's really, really kind of you.